Hey folks, it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be talking to everyone. I've really been enjoying this roadshow. My name's Lawson, and I'm running for the Public Service Commission. And the reason that I'm running for the Public Service Commission is simple. It's because I know what utilities are. When I was growing up in a trailer in Coshada with me, my mom, my grandma, my great-grandma, I knew what utilities were then. They were inconsistent. The lights came on and off. We didn't make a ton of money. We struggled to pay the bills. When I grew up, that's when I really learned what utilities mean. I had to drop out of college to pick up more shifts bartending because I wasn't able to afford my bills. My grades slipped, and I ended up dropping out of college. And that's what I learned what utilities really meant for people. Struggle. It's struggling to get that bill paid on time. It's stressing about living on the margins, wondering if you're gonna be able to pay the next bill on time, having to spend just the last bit of money you have to make these bill payments. And that's why I'm running. And that is what informs my policy. It is tying electricity rates to people's income so that every home can function. It is about regulating the data centers that are coming to town. People are concerned, and they want to feel like their concerns are heard. And about concerns, the most important policy that I'm running on is my public advocate that I want to establish. Because every single constituent in a district should feel like that their politicians are listening to them, and there should be systems in place to make sure that they are hearing those concerns from their constituents. And that is why I'm running for Public Service Commission, because I believe that public service is about public service.
The Public Service Commission is a regulatory body with a very specific level of issues that they regulate. Mm-hmm. So what is the job of a Public Service Commissioner, and what about your professional experience has prepared you to take on this important regulatory role and to be one of 5 Public Service Commissioners in the state?
So I'm so glad you asked that question, because that's actually the question I get asked most on the campaign trail. You know, we go and knock people's doors 3 times a week, and when I tell them, hey, I'm Austin Lawson, I'm running for the Public Service Commission, the first thing they always ask me is, what is the Public Service Commission? I don't know what that is, which is sad, right? So I'll give you the pitch I usually give those people. The Public Service Commission is a constitutionally created independent regulatory body. I know that sounds all complicated, but simply it regulates electricity, water, and telecommunications. Now, if we're talking about experience that makes me qualified, I got plenty. The policy that I have written, I have brought before policy experts. I have brought before other politicians in the area. I have brought before people on the Public Service Commission. And every single time I go to those people, they say it's good policy, they're excited about it, and they're excited to work with me to make sure that I'm crafting it in an effective way. You brought up the fact that there's a majority of Republicans on the commission right now. Well, that could change. We have 2 seats up for election right now. One, this seat is Democratic, of course. One is Republican. If we can flip that, we can get a lot of progress done. But I don't think my policies are really that hard to push. Tying electricity rates to income is not that uncommon. 14 states do this right now, including places like Ohio and Virginia. Not exactly super progressive blue states, I would say. So if you want to push policy like this, people are tired of excuses that, oh, there's a Republican majority on this thing, there's a Republican majority on that thing. We're not going to fight for it. I'll tell you, if I'm on that commission, I'm going to go to every single one of those districts for those commissioners who are fighting against my legislation to tie people's income to their electricity rates, and I will go to their voters and I will explain this policy to them, tell them why it's good policy, and why they need to call their commissioner and tell them to support it, or why they need to vote them out.
Go ahead. Like many offices in Louisiana, the Public Service Commission elections for candidates are generally funded by industry representatives, and attorneys. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Louisiana legislature should pass legislation to eliminate corporate funding and regulated industries on the Public Service Commission?
I absolutely believe that the state legislature needs to pass a law making sure that people running in this race, and honestly more generally in our politics, should not be taking money from corporations that they are in charge of regulating. It is corruption. I was the first person in this race to come out and reject all corporate money. I'm very proud of that fact, because I know what that means. Who gives you money is who you are accountable to. When you are taking money from SWEPCO, from Entergy, from any of these utility monopolies, they are going to want that back. They are not giving you money out of the goodness of their heart. That is why I only accept campaign contributions from small donors and from community activist PACs, because I know that if I want to keep myself pure and if we want to keep our other politicians pure, that we need to follow the money and making sure it's coming from good, clean places.
Great. Many people are concerned about the potentially large, I guess it's the actual data center being built in Richland Parish, and the expansion of data centers in Caddo Parish, Bossier Parish, and possibly other areas. Your district is quite large, so your district is really a prime location for expansion of data centers. What are your concerns about the expansion of data centers? How should they be regulated by the Public Service Commission? And what do you think are the potential negative impacts of data centers in the region?
So a big part of the last year in my activism that I've been doing in Shreveport-Bossier has been around these data centers. And one thing I've heard when I go and talk to people and when I'm knocking on doors in my campaign, when I ask about the data center, people are concerned. They're concerned about a lot of things with them. They're concerned about the price of electricity going up because they're sucking up all the electricity in the area. They're concerned they're not going to be able to fish on the lake they go fish on because the data center is going to suck up all the water. They're afraid all of the deer are going to be ran off from where they go to hunt because they're so loud, not even to mention the human impact of that noise. I went to Greenwood in my district where they're building one of these data centers. Every single person told me, we don't know how we're going to be able to live here because we're going to have to hear the humming from this data center in the background, which is why whenever I launched this campaign, I proposed, and I'm still proposing, a package of regulation that we are going to put on these data centers. It's about giving them their own custom utility rate so that your and my electricity rates will not shoot up. It's about making sure they're recycling their water responsibly. These things do not have the most up-to-date recycling standards when it comes to recycling the water they use to cool them. Where's it going to be dumped? Caddo Cross Lake, the Red River, God knows who, or God knows where, right? And we also need to make sure that they are, whenever they are building new energy generation, they are not building more and more diesel and oil gas generators. We've seen it in places like Virginia. We've seen it in places like Ohio. They are destroying the environment there, which is one of the few things we have good in Louisiana. So I will make sure that we are investing in green energy when these things come so that we can be a leader in green energy and energy overall when they're coming here.
The legislature and the Public Service Commission has rolled back incentives for solar and other renewable energy sources. What do you think the role of the Public Service Commission is in advocating for renewable energy, and what types of corporate incentives, if any, would you advocate for to continue to diversify how the electrical grid is generated?
Louisiana, a lot of people will go and tell you, and a lot of people have told me on this race, that Louisiana is an oil and gas state. That is not how it has to be. The oil and gas that we are producing and we are using and we are selling is destroying our environment, one of the greatest parts about our state, which is why it is necessary we invest in renewable energy. As Public Service Commissioner, I have plans ready to get solar projects put up around the state, home solar, home efficiency programs to make sure people aren't paying as much on their electricity, we don't have as much electricity waste. But most importantly, we need to focus on what is good for our state. Instead of being an oil and gas state, why can't we be an energy state? Why can't we invest in wind? Why can't we invest in solar? We have 20% of our electricity, I learned recently, comes from nuclear. Why can't that be something we invest in? We need to think of new ways that we are going to move our state into the future. We need to think of if we are going to continue to run these outdated oil and gas models, or if we want to be a leader when it comes to clean energy in the future.
The Public Service Commission regulates energy producers like Cleco and Dimco that are considered, not considered like in the same range as Entergy. Mm-hmm. And recently, Cleco, which is the major electricity provider in central Louisiana, was essentially sold to a hedge fund. How can we protect access to energy providers and hedge against sort of this financial, I wrote down the word, but I'm not sure that's the best word, the implications of hedge funds coming in to take over our energy grid. So what do you think about the sale of Cleco is probably the best way to ask that question.
Well, first of all, our utilities are what we need to live. The idea that we would be selling Cleco off to some hedge fund, which we have seen has destroyed many businesses that they have bought. You guys remember Toys R Us? A lot of younger people might not because it's not around anymore. It was bought by private equity. A lot of your favorite restaurants that have lost quality have been bought out by private equity, and that's why they've lost. That's why they've lost that quality. A lot of these private equity firms come in, buy these companies, loot them for parts, take as much money as they can, and dip. And you know what? If we're talking about Toys R Us and we're talking about a chain restaurant, that's one thing. I don't think that's right. I don't think we should be destroying business, but that's one thing. When we are talking about our utility providers, the absolute necessities that we need to live, it should be out of the question that we are selling it to a hedge fund. We need to be actually investing in cooperatization of our electricity grid so that the people who live in Louisiana can own the power that they are getting.
Okay, your final question before your closing argument, let me get to the last question, is similar to one I asked earlier for the Senate candidates. We've lost trust in government of the issues that people face where the PSC regulates. It's transportation, pipelines, electricity, water. The Public Service Commission has a direct impact on the quality of life of Louisiana citizens. How can you raise the trust of the office that you're seeking, and how can you address any concerns of citizens around transparency and accountability in your office around regulations and educating the constituents so they understand what are the challenges facing them as ratepayers?
So the reason I'm running for this race is because I felt like I was not being represented by my government. There's 3 ways we're going to make sure that you feel represented by me in this race and you feel comfortable voting for me. One is background. I've been an activist for many years now in the Shreveport-Bossier area. I've been on the ground. I've been talking to folks. I know what they need. The second is policy. Policy-wise, we want to create a public advocate program, which is something I advocated for, I hinted at earlier, which is a paid position on the Public Service Commission whose goal is to research things on the docket, reach out to community leaders, reach out to these communities that are having cases come up in front of the Public Service Commission regarding them, and being there to advocate for them. Because let me tell you something, folks. I've watched these PSC meetings. The situation is dire. Right now, you have the Public Service Commissioners. You maybe have a first, second year law student with the Alliance for Affordable Energy or the Sierra Club, and then just a table full of Amazon lawyers, Facebook lawyers, SWEPCO lawyers, Entergy lawyers. We need to make sure that there is someone there advocating for the people. Because let me tell you something, folks. If I'm elected to the seat, I'm going to still be in my community. I already told you I'm going to be in other people's communities in the states, making sure that I can pass the policy that I've promised to you. But not everyone in this district is going to be so lucky to have a public service commissioner like that. We have Foster Campbell right now who's pretty accessible. I look to be that, but not everyone's going to have that. So I want to make sure that I can make sure that I represent my people, I'm talking to my people, and anyone in this state who might live in a different district who feels underrepresented by their public service commissioner has their voice heard.
Amen. So you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement.
Thank you. So folks, I don't need a lot of time. Let me present you with a scenario. You are walking to your ballot box on May 16th to vote for your candidate in this primary. You have 2 choices. You have a young, working class fighter who has been an activist in his community, who has talked to the people in the job, who knows the job, who is coming at you with good, solid policy that not only he understands he's going to get done, that you can understand how it's going to impact your life. That is one of your options. Your other option are the same old politicians who have continued to oversee the decay and dying of our state. Now, I want you to look at those two options, and I want each of you to ask yourselves when you go in there, who do I feel will be able to represent me better? I'm running in this race because I want to represent the people who feel like their politicians have continued to neglect them and continue to screw them over. I'm running because I want to fix that. I want to let every single one of you in this room know that if I am your public service commissioner, I've been where you are, I've struggled like you have, and I'm going to fight to make sure that none of you, none of your children, and none of your children's children will have to deal with that struggle ever again. Thank you very much. Austin Lawson for your public service commissioner for seat 5.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you, dear. Oh, absolutely.
And thank you guys for being here.
Okay, listen, aren't y'all energized and excited? I mean, we have great candidates running as Democrats in Louisiana. We are taking back our state, and we need each of you to be involved. And so we need you to share on Facebook, social media, Instagram, TikTok. We need for you to talk to your friends at Sunday school, at your yoga class, in your book club, you know, the guys that you go bowling with. Wherever you are with people, here's where we are in Louisiana. We need people of courage and character and compassion to stand up and speak up. You know, too many people, I think, actually are Democrats or were Democrats or want the world to be better, but they're a little bit intimidated by our current political environment. Can I get an amen on that? There are folks that are afraid to talk about politics with their families, their friends, their neighbors, because they're afraid they might be attacked for their views. So here really is the challenge of why we're doing the Roadshow, is that we've got people who are running that we can be proud of. We've got issues that we can stand on and communicate that make sense. We've got folks that are committed to try to improve the quality of life in Louisiana, to help support and fund education, to make sure health care is available. You know, for once in my lifetime, in the last 30 years, we've got folks running in every congressional district that somebody should want to vote for. Now, the brave part of this, in this heightened political environment, is for us not to be afraid. And for us to be willing to put on Facebook or start a conversation that can be just as casual as, hey, did you know? Hey, did you know this young guy, Conrad, he's worth looking at. You know, he's a married farmer. Yeah, there he is, okay. I mean, but you know what I mean? Hey, Austin is this young, really talented guy. Reverend Green is a minister running for the Public Service Commission. We've got 3 great candidates for the Senate. You know, I want people to be able to be proud to be Democrats in the state of Louisiana. I want the Democratic Party to have a set of values that we're willing to articulate and express. And I want people to be willing to stand up and say, hey, that's a good guy. I'm proud to be for him. Does that make sense? And so it's just going to take each of us stepping out of our comfort zone, because I actually think people might be ready to hear. I think people might be ready to hear, hey, wait a minute, we can do better. We deserve better. We deserve smart people who are compassionate, who care about their communities, to be our elected officials. We don't have to buy into the name calling or the polarization. We have a reason to be proud to be for something and not always against something. And so our job is not to demonize others. Our job is not to always look to pick a fight. Our job is to say we deserve better in Louisiana, and we want to ask our friends and neighbors to join us to step up to elect accountable, ethical, effective public servants who really do want to do the right thing. So on behalf of the Planning Committee, Bayou Progressive, Indivisible, all the groups that we're working with statewide, we believe that the voters have power. And we're working like hell to protect your right to vote, and we need you to join us to protect democracy, to protect Louisiana, and to protect the right to vote. So God bless you, and thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate y'all, and we'll be in Monroe tomorrow if you want to go to Monroe. But let's give all of our candidates a round of applause.